We've been waiting for almost a year for EA to put out the first franchise update in their efforts to fix Madden franchise. They told us what they were going to do. They told us we could expect it mid-November. Well, today EA finally dropped all of the information about when it's coming and all of the deep dive info on each specific thing they're changing with the first update, as well as what they're going to be changing in the following update that's going to be coming shortly after. We've been waiting. It's finally here. We can look into the news. They just dropped this big blog on their website, and I know yesterday we had an update as well, and I was talking about in that update, hey, where is the franchise stuff? We still haven't really heard the date for it, what's going on. Well, today we've got all the info that you need. We're gonna dive right into it. Now, if you are new to the channel and you never want to miss out on any of these updates, especially for the next gen version of Madden that will be dropping soon, make sure you subscribe, turn the bell icon on so you don't miss any of these important uploads. You know, like less than half of you guys that watch the videos aren't subscribed, so if you never want to miss out, if maybe you didn't even know you weren't subscribed, go ahead, click those buttons for me, and you'll always be up to date. Also, quick note, I did just pick up the Xbox Series X. I have it in my possession, going to be setting it up after this video. Now, of course, Madden isn't out yet, but we do have 2K21. Do you guys want to see some 2K21 next-gen full gameplay? Do you want to see me break down some of the stuff with the Xbox? Let me know in the comments below, because I could put out a second video later today. Now, let's get into this franchise update. That's what you guys are mostly here for, so let's talk about it. It says, a priority for the team has been to make sure the updates delivered post-launch do not require a restart/new franchise save to take advantage of them. While this means it takes a little extra time to develop each release, we've heard the feedback from the community on this issue. We wanted to share a deep dive on what's coming for franchise mode for Madden 21 via a title update coming on November 12th. So basically they're sticking to their word there. That's 2 days from now. That is mid-November. We're going to be getting all the new franchise stuff. They added a note here that says, we're delivering the first of 3 Madden 21 franchise updates with this release. For Madden 21 post-launch releases, we have worked with the franchise community members to come up with a number of updates focused on improving usability for core users of the mode, as well as a number of tuning upgrades. We are sharing the first batch of updates and giving a preview of the second batch coming later in the cycle that is targeted to arrive around mid-January, so that's another couple months from now. So let's talk about the first one. The dev trait regression tuning. That is the first update. It says here, Star, Superstar, and Superstar X Factors will now have desired counts that are treated as the correct amount for each dev trait in your franchise. A new league setting has been added for each dev trait to allow commissioners to decide the right amount for your league experience, and default values match the roster count of dev traits that shipped with Madden 21's preseason roster in the offseason. New logic will run to decide which players are eligible to regress. If there are more players at a specific dev trait than the setting says desired, eligible players will be regressed in priority order until the target is met. In some cases, there may be slightly more than target after regression if no players were found eligible. If you prefer to play in a league where dev traits can't regress, you can also turn off dev trait regression in league settings. We also turn the criteria to receive a breakout dev scenario for all positions to prevent an overabundance of high dev traits after multiple years and make sure we're increasing the dev on players who truly deserve it. There will also be 3 new QB breakout dev scenarios that can occur throughout your season and league setting to turn all breakout dev trait scenarios on/off. When the breakout scenarios are off, users will only progress their dev trait by the end of the season, stats, rankings, and rewards. And they also added a dev note here that says, this change, like many of the changes being delivered via post-launch updates for this year, is to maintain authenticity and provide more agency to commissioners to define the experience of their players. Next up, we have the playoff bracket. Now, when they first announced this, I thought, this doesn't really sound like that big of a deal. Nothing that's that great, but surprisingly a lot of people commented when I said that and said, no, you know, this actually is something we really have been wanting, and this is something that, you know, we're definitely excited about. So I guess it just goes to show you how much I know, because I'm not really like a big franchise head. But anyway, here's what they have to say about the playoff bracket. It says, starting week 13 of the regular season, there will be a things to do item that takes you to the current playoff picture if the season ended that week, including the seeding for each team that would be in the playoffs. Once wildcard week begins, the playoff bracket will also have the scores of all games that have been played and the box score available by clicking on the matchup. There will also be a way to access this bracket through the schedule button with the new title labeled playoff picture. And as you can see, they did put a screenshot up here of what the bracket would look like. Pretty clean, pretty simple, pretty straight to the point. Here's another big one that I know people have been talking about for years that they wanted to be desperately fixed. They added the player card career stats. They've fixed it. They've, kind of gave it a facelift, kind of went back to how it used to be when it was good many years ago. It says one of the top community requests for several years now, we added the week matchup and result of the game to each player's season stats via their player card. We also added what team a player finished their season with on each year of their career stats via the player card. Now this one, you gotta shout out Soft Drink TV for this. One of the biggest driving forces behind, fixing Madden in general, specifically franchise mode, and specifically this key point here, adding the team that a player played for on their stat sheet, which definitely could get annoying. When you were looking at stats of a player over the years, they would not have a team column. This went away many years ago, and you wouldn't know exactly which year he played for what team. So you can see how it has now been changed. You can see some of the screenshots here. You can see we got Brady. We'll go into Lamar Jackson here, and then when we go to the next one, you're going to see a good example with Mark Ingram. You can see how he played for the Saints for all these years, and then just starting last year, he played for the Ravens. So kind of a small thing, but I know franchise guys were really adamant about this being updated in the game because it was just kind of an eyesore and just kind of a pain, and now it's there. So I definitely think small change, but good change, very impactful change, I guess you could say. Next, let's talk about the X Factor customization. It says here, another highly requested community feature. We brought over our functionality from player mode that allows the player to alter the Superstar and Superstar X Factor abilities on their players inside of Core Franchise as both a coach and an owner. Commissioners will be able to edit the abilities on players that are controlled by other players and the CPU as well. Abilities will continue to follow slot and overall requirements per archetype, so a player must reach the overall threshold for an ability in the specified archetype before they are able to apply it. All of this functionality occurs directly in the player card by clicking any of the abilities. So again, this was something else that was definitely highly requested. In my opinion, this should have been one of those no-brainer things that was just added when they implemented the new ability and X Factor system. It just, to me, and I think to many people, that just seemed like a no-brainer. You should have just included that with it. But EA sometimes they really do overlook kind of the obvious thing there. But it's good. It's one of those, like, it is better late than never to have that there for sure, because that customization aspect of abilities definitely makes them a lot more enjoyable. At least I would assume as a franchise player that would make them much more enjoyable. Next up, we have retirement improvements. It says here, in the Resign Players Week, there will now be a Things to Do item that takes you directly to the transaction screen sorted to retired players to provide a quicker look into who is riding off into the sunset. And you can see here, we do have some screenshots. Again, something very small, something I definitely saw a lot of people complain about because, again, this used to be in the game. It's something so simple, and why is it not there? Because now you're going to know who retires, you're going to know sometimes I believe I've dabbled in franchise a little bit, and a lot of times you just would not know who retired, or at least past a certain point you couldn't like refer back to it or anything. And now they've definitely made those improvements. So again, it's small things, it's baby steps, but it's nice to see them putting things there that just are supposed to be there. Now let's talk about what is coming in the next franchise update. Again, this is the one that is scheduled for mid-January. And before we get into that, I want to say I feel like, okay, if you're a franchise guy, there's probably two ways you're feeling right now. Number one, you're still feeling like, damn, it's crazy that we had to wait this long just for this much, right? And there's still so much to go. But I think the other side, you have to probably feel good that they're definitely looking to, like, they're sticking with their commitment. This first update is rolling out when they said it was going to roll out mid-November, 2 days, and they're already saying, hey, 2 months from now, we've got another update coming out. So at least they're sticking with it. And the real key is going to be, do they stick with it really past Madden 21 and go into Madden 22 and 23 and add back those really big features that they said they were going to do? That's going to be the real key. But I think it's good. As a franchise fan, you probably have to feel like we're finally getting somewhere, as opposed to the last few years where it was just going nowhere. But anyway, this is what's planned for mid-January. We've got a personnel logic improvement. It says new guidelines for the CPU draft logic to assist teams in whether they should or should not have interest in drafting a first-round quarterback, addresses teams drafting 2 first-round QBs in consecutive years, along with other roster context considerations, QBs a more authentic window to develop before a replacement is considered to be drafted. They also have a commissioner control controls and undo free agent signings off-season only. Thing they got here, it says commissioners are able to undo free agent signings in the offseason directly through the transaction log. Simply click on a signing and revert it to send the player back to the free agent pool. There's also commissioner controls that override the team settings, says here, giving commissioners of the league the ability to turn on, off, or allow users to keep individual settings for heat seeker, tackling, ball hawk, and switch assist. One of our top requested commissioner requests. This creates a way to level the playing field regarding assist features. They also are going to be doing commissioner draft tools, giving commissioners the ability to assign autopilot during the draft along with pause resume functionality. This has been a top community request for a number of years now. And lastly, commissioner house rules, play cooldown and repeat limits. This is actually very interesting here because we know a lot of diehard franchise players, they're sim heads, and they don't like the abusing of plays and things like that. Now that there's a functionality in there that the commissioner can actually take advantage of, I think for people that want that authentic sim experience, this is going to really help assist that. It says here, after these settings made their debut last year in Madden Ultimate Team and Superstar KO, house rules became one of the most requested features for franchise players, and we are incredibly excited to bring them to you. Take control as a commissioner and dictate how many times a play can be called in a game and how long a player must wait before calling the same play again. That to me I think is really huge out of all of these things listed for the next update, because let's be honest, okay, today's update, or excuse me, the update that's coming in 2 days is more so for just franchise as a whole. This next update is definitely a big focus for like the online CFMs, giving the commissioners tools that they've been dying for, whereas like these things don't necessarily make the entire franchise mode better in terms of like adding new features, but it's giving those CFMs that you play in with other people, giving commissioners these tools to help run a league better is also very important. But I do think that the house rules play cooldown limit, I think is really going to be big for those online sim CFMs. So I think the third update after this is going to kind of go back to focusing on more overall features for the whole mode. It also says here to wrap it up, don't forget the next gen of Madden 21 is available on December 4th with dual entitlement. Buy now, get it free, get Madden 21 free, yada yada. So I'm assuming all of these things should definitely carry over to the next gen version. It would literally make no sense if it didn't. So that is all of the updates for today. Again, let me know if you want to see some Xbox Series X gameplay with 2K later, since that's the only sports game out right now. Let me know below. Subscribe if you're new. As always, I will see you guys next time.